Okay.
This is Sheila with Conscious Conversations Central, and it is Monday, January the 8th, 2018, and I have with me again my posse. That's what I'm going to start calling you guys, my posse. BC Rigger and Lisa Fresh. And thank you guys for coming again tonight. And if it's all right, what I'd like to talk about this evening is, well, we were kind of talking about this before we started recording again, and I don't even know how to bring it up now. I know how to do it. I know that I know pretty eensy beensy bit of much of anything in this physical embodiment. I'm seeking and I'm learning all the time about the bringing more of my, like your terminology, BZ, is the big Sheila into the little Sheila, the higher self into the physical embodiment, which is what this is, this whole idea of embodied ascension. But I am noticing in the field around me, there are those who feel that they got it, that they are embodying, I guess, most of themselves or whatever. And there's been, I don't know, I guess I'm, as a puzzle piece collector, I've never ever felt like any one being has all the answers. And I mean, that's part of the reasons I became termed myself a puzzle piece collector, because I think everybody has answers and we can each learn from each other. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing some, not a lot, but some, what amounts to almost a little bit of finger pointing, but about this over here isn't the right way, this is, that sort of thing. It kind of smacks a little of, well, what I saw in religion, the Methodists think they got it over the Baptists and over the Catholics and, all that kind of thing. Yeah. So I don't know, it's not, I guess it's not much of a topic to talk about, but it's something that in some cases, I don't know, it's just unsettling to me. Sometimes because it has been directed at me. But I know I don't know everything. I know very, very little. That's the difference between myself, I'm thinking, and some of what I'm seeing in my field is that I'm aware that I know next to nothing, and I'm trying to, I'm transitioning into finding out what I don't know and pulling
remembering
more. Right, thank you. Remembering, pulling more of me into me.
Mm-hmm. I like to think of it as and then membering, the coming together of who we are. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too, Lisa.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautifully said. And it's not that you don't know, because Source doesn't not know anything.
Okay, so for me, what I'll say then is, I might know it back here somewhere, and I'm pointing back here to the back part of me, but up here in the focus area that I have right now, it's not there yet.
Absolutely right. Yeah, both of those perspectives. So what I just said and what you just said, and then how Lisa brought in the remembering it together, each one of those perspectives is absolutely correct. So just an overview on this topic of someone knowing a little or a lot or whatever those things. One thing to remember is that regardless of where you are, what you're looking at things, your perspective on it is a valid perspective because it's your perspective. It's pushing your perspective on someone else as to subjugate their perspective to your perspective is a linear thing on perspectives.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
But what I wanted to say, to add to what I said a minute ago, it's not, Source doesn't not remember anything. And so you are Source. You started out in the super soup of Source, and you went out, as we talked about before, went forth to know Source, knowing Source. And what's happening right now in the ascension process, in the physical embodiment ascension process, is all of that knowing, the totality of all. And I don't mean just all on this call or all on this planet or all in this local galaxy or all and so on and so forth. I mean all is coming back in and coming back online. So you're not, from one perspective, there has been amnesia and you don't know or remember or have a cognitive appreciation of pretty much everything.
Right?
So that's one perspective, and that's a linear perspective and a dense linear perspective, but it's absolutely correct because an awful lot of beings on this planet would absolutely share that perspective if they knew enough to realize to get back and look at what they do or don't know to have that perspective. Right now, they have so small a perspective because they're so clamped in the constrictive false construct that they might even have the perspective of, well, they know a whole lot, but it's of a sphere that's only this big, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So as you have go through the process of, as Lisa said, remembering, so you're remembering your DNA, all the strands of it. So it's activation, but it's actually reactivation because you used to be fully activated. That's how we all came to this planet, came into being. That was part of the original design of the living library. And then there were battles and wars, and because it's a free will zone, we were the spoils of war, the we's that were down here on the planet at that time. And so we were tinkered with and played with and all sorts of euphemisms for that. And, such came the story, of much of the before known history, not all of the before known history, but most of the before known history of humanity on this particular blue planet. Having said that, when you come out on a little broader perspective, so a more expanded, more higher vibrational frequency perspective, you realize that you actually all of everything is contained within you. I've mentioned this before, that, you have the phrases as above, so below, from within, from without. And one of the things that's pointing to, giving you an illustration of, to help you kind of find your way in the darkness that seems to shroud you from, the knowing, is that everything that is out there actually comes from you and is mirrored within you. So think of all the stars. Even if you don't know a lot about stars, you've seen photographs of really cool things from the Hubble telescope or all that kind of stuff, and the way that there's all the different energetics and the celestial bodies and all that kind of stuff. That's in you. You are the stuff of stardust. So you are the stuff of all. So all of that is actually within you.
Yeah, there's there's been lots of photographs that have been taken by the Hubble telescope that, you know, scientists say, well, that looks like neurons in the brain, or that looks like, you know, this, that, or the other, you know, synapses that are
eyeball. Yeah.
Right.
And that's why it does, because it is you. It's the microcosm and the macrocosm and all of those kinds of things. We're all, so, you know, so you can argue with it, you can play with it, you can look at it sideways, however, you know, you feel like doing it, but
right,
it is what it is. So as we come to those, you know, broader and broader and broader perspectives, which really are another way of saying more encompassing, more encompassing, more encompassing. So we're encompassing more. We're letting more of what's in us blossom forth. So again, I just like this because it's within, without. It's
right.
the whole thing. So that's what actually is happening with the ascension process. And what happens is that you a linear term would be you lighten up that which is in all of you. So your cellular memory, the actual structure of your cells, the actual structure of your whole physiological body, the actual way that all of your systems work within your body, whether it's electromagnetic or any of those kinds of things, all of those are shifting and changing. They literally are shifting and changing. Some scientists, some doctors, some other in other realms of specific kinds of sciences, those who are not afraid for their lives and who actually have been paying attention to their nudges could look and do research and show you that, yes, this is actually true. So you could have quantifiable, double-blind, so on and so forth studies. You won't see a lot of right this moment that are out there that are actively published, because that hasn't been, well, it's been
It's
beyond
dangerous.
frowned upon. That's right. It's very dangerous. So, but that time has passed. I mean, that time has passed, and my intuitive sense is that there's an awful lot of articles and diagrams and captured studies, presentations, videos, the whole realm of how they would be in a multi-dimensional experience, that information related, just ready to go forth. Just ready, any moment here, literally, to pop right out onto the scene that it's here. I mean, you're already starting to see
Hit the send button.
Yeah, like that. And so within that is, as you hold the highest predominant frequency vibration that you can, and then you kind of get in that as a plateau for you. So that's the common level that you're holding, and you just hold it. You are it, you hold it, and there isn't as much choosing, as much remembering, as much noticing, as much catching, whatever the phrases that you might use for that.
Right.
Then, and your focus is, and your absolute commitment is to keep doing that. Then you keep going and going and going and going. So, you know, you keep getting those until you go up. The beauty of it is, and kind of the fun thing is, you think, well, you know, I'm going to get to know everything. No, you're never really going to, because why? Because we're all creator beings, and it keeps,
and we're constantly expanding.
So, you know, if you get to the top of the purported bubble of knowing everything, well, no, because by the time you had that thought,
a new one comes in.
Yeah, well, it's complete. It's complete, never-ending infinity of expansion, which means expansion of everything.
Yeah.
And when you start to see more of it in your third eye, and however you're seeing it, could be in in all sorts of things. It could be in, you know, for me, a lot of there's videos that come in as if I hit the play screen on a button, but the video comes in.
Yeah.
Or it could be just, you know, knowing something will catch my eye. I'll notice something and look at it. I spend a lot of time going like this. And in that, what I'm seeing could be a tree, you know, a particularly nice tree, or something I notice and the light catches it a certain way. And I may notice a sphere on the tree, an energetic sphere that's actually there. I could take a photograph, is actually there. And again, I tune into it, and there is a transfer of energy from that. Now, I'm not certain, and I don't really have any attachment to it. Is the energy transfer occurring from that sphere, which is a light body being of some dimensional thing, of a very loving, you know, because that's all I will allow to attract into my own sphere, you know, of source energy? Or is it simply the act of noticing that and stilling for a moment that lets that come in? But so that was kind of a side topic. I'm not sure why that popped in. But anyways, what I was going down the path of is as we expand, and we don't have to expand a couple things I wanted to back up and say. So we don't have to, if we thought, and this is just a linear placeholder, but if we thought of ourselves as we're kind of this shaped size sphere of frequency vibration, right?
Okay.
And we really are intentional about holding that and expanding.
Yes.
So you know, if you do the vision, you might look at it as we're this size shape, and all of a sudden it kind of goes in this, instead of round, it kind of has this big bubble that opens up, and this, oh, wait, something, you know, comes in. So it's almost like a solar flare, but it's a kind of a encompassing flare of you. Your
Sure.
energetic field reaches out and envelops something else, and that's interesting. And then you go back to this sphere, and you think, oh, you play with it, and you might get it. But anyways, as you're doing that, and you keep, so in other words, you don't have to be, again, using a linear descriptive visual placeholder, this big a sphere to start lots of stuff in. You can get it out. You just won't hold it per se, or you won't, maybe a more appropriate way to describe it is you won't hold it in a cognitive top of mind, as Sheila had pointed out, you know, right here kind of knowing way. It comes in, almost like a seed, so it just passes through. It's still there, it hasn't gone anywhere actually. You're
Right.
just not playing it with it right here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I wanted to back up to
well, that kind of makes sense, because the what I have learned and some of the things that I've been looking at is that the subconscious is a recorder. It records everything that ever comes anywhere near you, even if you're not paying attention. So that's one of the reasons why not allowing specific things to be even, you know, just playing in the background. Maybe you're not paying attention to it, but your subconscious still hears it and is recording it and never forgets it. That's the same for children, babies in the womb, everything. And now that's a scientific fact. That's not, you know, woo-woo, as some people would like to, you know, kind of point out. So that made a lot of sense to me, what you just said there.
Well, and just to just as a side note on what you just described, it's absolutely a scientific fact, and it has been an amazingly valuable and incredibly strong programming tool.
Oh yes, I know. Absolutely. This is one of the reasons that I've gotten myself into trouble with people when I try to point that out. Because this was very early on in my waking up or remembering process of, walk into a house and there's the TV's blaring and nobody's even paying attention to it. And it's like, what are you doing to yourselves and your children? And, you got the 24-hour news playing all the time with all the crap and nobody's even looking at it, but it's still going in.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you with that, but that was one of my big things.
Yeah, but it's absolutely true. So, so the other thing, let's see if I can grab it back. The other thing I wanted to step back to is, so you don't have to be, whatever the very largest sphere might be to get this. It's just that you're not locked in and holding it in a right up front moment all the time. It's almost like you're kind of going like this, undulating. So then now to go to the, again, just to play so, but to the other side of that, so we were here. So now we think of, I don't have the arm reach in the physical body sense. I do in a energetic sense, but in my physical body, I don't have that big an arm reach to encompass the whole thing. And when you're at that whole thing in the moment that I'm saying it, because the whole thing is going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger because we're all creative beings. But when you're in that moment, you actually then have the totality of all. So all of your memories from all of your lifetimes, incarnations, embodiments, non-embodiments, levels, densities, all for me, all for Lisa, all for Sheila. So I have all of those of you and me and you and everybody else, and because I have all.
Right.
So I have all of the Akash records of all on this planet, all that are, hi guys, that are hanging out around this planet and the next planet and the next solar system, the next galaxy and the next multiverse and all the other multiverses and all of everything. And you remember it all and can call it up. It doesn't, I've heard some people say, well, I'm going to have a headache when that happens, or I'm going to be kind of confused. Well, because the capacity of our brain that we have really actually all comes back online again. And so that's not a problem at all. And you can call it. And I liken it to how, in my life, people will say, well, I never knew you did that, or I never knew about this. And these are people that I know, fairly well and had a lot of conversations or whatever. And I don't think about it. I don't call it forward. It's when someone else is asking a question or we're having a conversation or relaying a story or whatever, that will come back over and in the forefront, and I can use it as an illustration for something. That's when I actually connect back with it. Does that make sense? So it's, and that was the same. So I look at it the same way. So all those other things. So if I was on Aldebaran, or if I was in the Ryan Wars, or if I was here, or whatever, all these other kinds of things, and I need it for whatever reason, to call something up, whether it was a more intimate personal thing, like just a friend level, or something as a skill, or whatever it is, I can reach out and pull those things in. And when you're going through the physical body ascensions, what I talked about, this morning in a short video that I released, is that you become factualized. All of you is in that individuated, factualized singularity of you, which is Sheila and Lisa and Beezy and Keegan and all that kind of stuff, right? And yes, Keegan too.
And
you have that, and you are all, that unity of all, of source, of everything at the same moments.
And
makes your head hurt.
Well, I did have a little twinge here a minute ago.
Now that you mention it.
Yeah. So am I understanding you correctly to say that you have access to all of that now at your will?
We all do, yes.
Okay.
Whether we have the let me qualify that, we all do, yes. Do we realize it? Have we realized that in our singularity? Most probably not yet.
Well, I was going to say I certainly haven't. So, yeah.
And
me either.
But you're moving very fast on that trajectory to do that, because it's it's your focus, it's your utmost commitment and dedication to that, and and even in the moments, talking about you in particular, Sheila, when you used to wear flip-flops and and have the wrestling and whatever it is, it's and go through some moments that are roller coasters and all that kind of stuff, you're right there with it. And so that actually electromagnetically charges, literally and figuratively, all of those synapses, all of those things that are coming online, all those connections, all of those portals where the stuff is flowing from within. So because within is actually directly connected to the central sun, which is the heart of source. So you're all within that. So as you keep making that commitment and recommitting, more and more and more comes online. So yes, right now, that's what I keep saying, you're not missing anything. No one is missing anything. It's whether or not they had been so good at pulling the pillow over their head that it was shielding it, blocking it, that kind of stuff, or the programming and all of that. The last thing I would just want to finish up on the very biggest thing is that, and with physical body ascension, is that you carry this within this body and you become immortal. And what that means is that all of what we just touched on here, in the best we can cognize that, you won't ever lose the ability again to cognize it or pull it forth. There is no remembering ever needed again. That's part of the immortal. So you're in this body and you decide, okay, well, that's great. I got it now. I see everything. I'm going to play, lots of playing to do, all this creation, expansion, whatever I want, I've decided to do for this planet as we go forward and what we're doing. And we'll talk more about that later. But,
yay.
And okay, I'm going to play here and kick around for another 250 years, 300 years. So fast forward, it's 250, 300 years later, and okay, cool. Well, hey, I want to do that. So that may be a non-physical, that may be my celestial embodiment, and I'm going to go create worlds. It may be all sorts of things, whatever you choose. But you choose. It may be that, well, I want to come in and be in another body in another place, and then because I choose. because I choose consciously right here, right now. Maybe I'm looking through a book. Maybe there's a galactic catalog, or whatever it is, right? Because I just created it, right? So there you go.
Yep.
And I want to do that. So I take whatever, Lisa takes whatever is right in that, the totality, that everything, the whole shebang, everything. So everything of all, you leave this body. You already know where you're going. You already know how you want to create it.
Yeah.
You enter the other body, Shazam, whatever that looks like, you're there. So you remember Lisa, and you decided to call yourself, I don't know, Alfonso or something now, and you're doing this or whatever, and you got pink polka dots and, and whatever. So,
yeah,
because you choose.
Yes.
So the reason that's important to play with is that, different than what's happened now this time around, you had a lot of choosing before you got here, and you worked with your guides and your soul and all that kind of stuff, but you were still moving along the path in the trajectory away from source, even if you had specific things you're working on to come back to source in the missions that you were doing here, because of moving all of this planet and all.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
That trajectory. But with the exception of a very few beings on the planet, you had the amnesia, you had the forgetfulness, and it comes over, so you don't remember it. So the difference with the star seeds, what people term as star seeds, or star seeds, a good umbrella kind of moniker. It's not quite accurate, but it's okay. Is that when we were all sitting around the campfire on the beach, is the way I remember my last particular big meeting. We had it all locked in, so easy to trigger and easy to jump and repopulate. If I was talking in computer terms, you repopulate the data in there in different places along this journey in this particular embodiment. And we did that by design so that we would come online, we would wake up, we would pull in, we would, at the right moments of our predetermined choice, could have been event driven, it could have been frequency driven, combination of different things.
Right.
So that's already happened for many people. That's I think why the term awakening comes, because those things are waking up within you that were always there, at the time. The difference about what I'm speaking about now, when you are factualized and that singularity, is that it's right there. Right. Someone could say, well, on Alpha Centauri, in B289Z of, their first Jubilee on the 38th moon day. Remember when we did X, and oh yeah, man, it was, you're right there because you got it all.
Wow.
And
I'm excited about that.
Well, yes, me too.
Uh-huh.
And that is part of what's coming for us, isn't it?
Yeah, it's already here. You're just actually doing the cognizing, if that's such a word, where you're putting it all in.
Would it be fair to say like calibrating it?
Yeah.
I was thinking of it. Oh, sorry.
That would be close. I don't think it encompasses all of it, but that would give you a little perhaps broader descriptor.
Okay.
What were you going to say, Lisa?
Well, I was thinking about that a little bit today in in my journaling, because I was seeing it as though the new world is here already, and it's like I have cataracts. And so I can't see it, but I can perceive it in different ways. And I want to get rid of the cataracts so that I have clear vision of what is before me. Because I feel like it's here and it's now. I just have a filmy, milky something in the way.
Yeah. Well, I actually had cataracts, but I termed spiritual cataracts, although they actually were in a physical manifestation, when I was 38. So I know exactly. It's actually a great metaphor for it, because with them, it's like mud on the windshield. You can't really see.
Yeah.
But you can turn your head if you just something right. And that's what it's like. That's why people say, well, if you turn your head, you catch it out of the corner of your eye. So all of this is already here. All of this we already know. All of this is all within us, because we are all. And we're in the process of bringing it all online. And that's why I think playing with some of the things that I'm going to be doing in little videos that I put out, but also with you guys and others, is playing with really sharpening those tools and how you can play it. And
I'm looking forward to those, actually. Yeah. I'm looking forward to those videos, whether you do them with me and Lisa, with me by myself, with others, by yourself. I don't care. I'm looking forward to them.
Keep talking.
Yeah, keep talking.
Well, I mean, that's what it's really about, is to make that commitment. Something that I've touched on a lot is noticing is a big muscle builder, and the commitment and trusting. And it highlights something right this moment when you kind of first began this particular part of the conversation, or this particular conversation with, is I don't know a lot. So I would caution you to phrase that in a different way, because you actually are commanding the knowing or not knowing,
I see
the level of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I have been becoming more careful, or more not careful, more
consciously aware.
Well, yeah, consciously aware of the language that I use.
Yeah.
And catching.
We're helping each other with that.
Yes, we are catching each other, myself, ourselves in how I speak, which will help with the way I think. And because a lot of what Lisa wrote, what you have talked about lately, it is absolutely crystal clear to me, because I've heard folks say we are becoming creators. No, we have always been. And it's clear to me now that we have always been, but we've been creating unconsciously and by default, based solely on the programming, the conditioning, and the manipulation of those, directing our focus in ways that someone else preferred.
Yes.
And now I want to be, and I am making it a priority to only think and speak in terms that I'm directing purposefully.
Yes.
And so part of it I've noticed for myself in regards to the way I do that is partly habit, from that conditioning and the programming and just the 56 years of all of that. And so yeah, I mean, and when I'm first catching myself, of course, just like any habit that you're trying to break yourself out of, which now I'm not trying, I'm transitioning as this is something I will succeed in. Just being more cognizant as those words come out.
Right. Because each word has a vibrational frequency to it. And as you tune in and refine how you feel into that, notice that, those vibrational frequencies become really apparent of the different words. You notice it oftentimes more quickly when it's coming out of someone else, or maybe it's on the radio or something else, because there's a clear signal. There is a little bit of that distance so you can see it. Notice it's a little harder. Again, part of design, it's a little harder from the programming standpoint to see it within yourself because of the filters that have been put in to do that.
Which at this point makes it that much more precious to me that I have found in Lisa a partner that can, because for instance, when we had the conversation about the word broke, it had that, because I just gave what I got in my head about that. And I have had conversations with others where the immediate response is one of defense of the language that's spoken, rather than cognize the fact that it's just an observation and an assist, not judgment. Right, not judgment. And that's for me, I think there's been a slight twist of the way that has happened, like, in the spiritual community. Well, that's a judgment. You're being very judgy. And because I have had that said to me, that I'm very judgy, and but I've had occasion now to look at some of that. That's the way it's perhaps heard, maybe, or perceived. And I'm thinking that now I'm even more so feeling as though, isn't it possible that it's received that way, as, I don't know, that's their thoughts on the matter.
A deflection.
Right. A deflection, yes.
But keep in mind too, and I'm going to say this and then remind me to get back to the broader perspective point on this but there has been a whole lot of mass mind control programming.
Yes.
So that when beings come into contact with each other that are noticing and that are wanting to just help shed a little more light on a particular word or phrase or turn of phrase that someone may be using because it holds a particular frequency vibration. Part of the programming, and you don't have to have any awareness of it or not, is that deflecting. It is a deflector, and I mean that from when there's a program installed, it deflects.
That's its job.
That's its job. So I wasn't, it could be that the other person is deflecting you consciously, but what I was saying is more of a program deflection.
Mm.
It's a system security check to keep the integral coding in the program that was put on you intact.
Mm.
Yes. And I'm noticing it too in my thoughts. So when I feel myself reacting that way inside, I'm just letting it stay right there and sort of sorting through it. Now, why did this pop up? And really look at that for what it is, for myself. And I realize too that the thoughts that I entertain are where it starts with the toning, because
yes,
they're swimming around there. And so I look at it as I want to entertain the most empowering thought, the truth about myself, instead of it, because I did catch myself many years in a loop of this: I'm broke, I'll never have enough, this is always the way it's going to be. And they were just, it was like a broken record playing in the background, and I got so accustomed to it I couldn't hear it anymore. Like I wasn't even aware of it. Right. So I'm working on catching it in the thought process, and then choosing a thought that is in alignment with the truth of who I am, versus just allowing myself to get caught up in old tapes and run with them.
Yeah, because it's an illusion.
Yes.
And your tip off that it's an illusion is anything that is in any way, shape, or form a hierarchical less than, greater than thought. That's a really good beacon of
right? Yeah, I call them the painful thoughts.
Yeah.
That's a really good point there, BZ. So if something comes up and there's any kind of hierarchical tone to it, then that's a program.
That's an Archon program, yeah.
Would it be fair to say that would include religion in that?
Well, that's a program of all programs, but
well,
that's a whole other conversation.
Part of the reason I ask that is that, okay, so I know that I am both Sheila and Source. I'm aware of that. And so as creator, I know that there isn't some God over me. There is no hierarchy above me or you or any one of us. And yet,
well, I'm going to stop you just for a moment, because
okay,
this goes into unraveling and elucidating kind of the miasma that we've been in. So you're absolutely correct from one perspective.
Okay.
From another perspective, there absolutely has been a God with a small g above the whole planet and taking off, and what is a lot of the religions are based on, and so on and so forth. Very distinct and different from Source. And and you bet it has been a hierarchy, and you bet it has been a mechanism, and you bet it has been over you, and it's been controlling you and all that kind of stuff. So from that perspective, that's the case. And again, back to the other perspective, all of that is an illusion as well.
Okay, so well that and I knew that. And I thank you for that, because that's just a confirmation for me, as I have for a very long time now felt that specifically. Of course, as I'm sure both of you, I know, Lisa, you've had.
Jehovah is real. But not source. He's blind and mistaken in his assumptions.
Well, and see, that's been an issue, because I have come into contact and I heard, because so for me, I have a hard time. I don't any longer, because I hear those saying they're creator beings, and yet there's this creator over. And I'm like, what?
Well, really, some of what we've been hearing is more, we're aspiring creators. We're learning how to create versus we created all of this.
Okay. Yeah, that's a true statement. Okay, you are right about that. Okay. Well, and I guess that's an even much longer conversation, to be honest. And
yes.
and I was doing so well keeping these at a lower amount of time, but
I think BZ needs to finish her thought on.
Yes, please do before I actually.
Because you told us to remind you to get back to the big picture.
Well, there was just a piece in there. I don't remember exactly where it was or how you said it, but I think it was along the lines of waking up or learning or remembering, or however you want to phrase it.
Yes.
The most accurate, expansive one is that your source. So source knows everything. But what I wanted to get back to is from the linear perspective, or the not an expansive 5D or beyond perspective.
Okay.
Well, I don't actually remember what the point was, so. But the point is that where we are now, when we have a perspective, if we're just in this more narrow focused perspective, when we then jump out to a broader one of 5D frequency, vibration, and above, none of this. Oh, I know. So it was some comment about something being done to us. It was the programming and all that kind of stuff. So,
right.
All right. So I kind of got back to it, sort of. So, yes, the mass mind control and programming, all that kind of stuff. So from a linear perspective, absolutely right. It's reality, and on a lot of levels, it's absolutely royally sucked, and the whole 9 yards, and yada 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 yada. Yep, you got it. That's a linear perspective.
Sure.
So we come out a bit from a fifth dimensional perspective, vibrational frequency perspective. That's not the case at all. Simply not the case.
Yay.
No one has done anything to us. We all created together, because remember, we were over here in the super source soup over here, and we came on this trajectory of source wanting to know source, and we went all the way as far as we could go in this thing, and we swam in the muck and the mire, and we were amazing, absolutely stupendously, sublimely amazing in all of the eddies and currents and rabbit holes and everything that we created, of the good and the bad and the horrible and the amazing, and whatever you're putting in those rabbit ear quotes, right? to the nth degree squared, whatever the next big mathematical thing is over that, times multiplied that, yada. Okay, and as we start our trajectory back, which we are all firmly doing. We're coming around, banking on that curve now and going back. So from fully within that perspective, yes, it absolutely is. It's a very valid perspective that it has either been fun to do this, in quotes, to everyone, or the most horrific of horrific, and that's not even a word, that's even a placeholder word, right?
Right.
And that's, both of those are correct, and on all iterations of those are absolutely correct. But that's when you're going this way or banking your turn. But once you're fully shifted your trajectory, which means that you're holding a more predominant frequency vibration that's more expensive, that's coming out, that's not the case at all. But they are both exist simultaneously because we're multidimensional.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Yeah.
And yes, and you can hold both perspectives. The thing to remember is that when you're holding firmly and only the perspective this way, you're going away from this trajectory. So you're going into the devolution and descension thing. And if that's what you choose to do, and that's for whatever reasons is what you choose to do, that is spectacular. It's absolutely spectacular because that's your choice. So play with it and do it. Absolutely. The only thing that I would offer as another little bit of information to add to that playing, you're stirring that pot and literally, boiling trouble in cauldron, and because you're going to fry some people up, that's great. But just add a pinch of this into that cauldron that you're brewing of, roasting and whatever else that you got. Because a lot of people have that in mind. Is that the opportunity to come back around to that shift of trajectory and the shift of expansion will be multiple millions of years before you can get back on that curve.
So then, just to satisfy my curiosity on that would sound to me as though you're saying that this is a cyclical process.
Well, it's
long-term cyclical, if it's going to be millions of years before.
Yeah, but it's well, okay, from one perspective, yes. Yeah. Well, but because now they're on a whole nother planet, a whole nother frequency vibrational reality. They're in a whole nother thing. And so it's a different.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes, because
this game is winding to its close.
Yeah, this one is done.
But to play that, you're heading in another direction, and that game is sort of just amping up. Right?
That one's just beginning.
So it's not cyclical. Cyclical is actually kind of a linear term, even though it's right. So it doesn't really quite fit, but kind of in a really linear box, not on this world, but yeah, sort of.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I get what you're meaning now. No, I get what you're meaning. I went there. So no, it's actually different. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So kind of, but not really.
It is.
This game is going back in the box. So for this planet.
Well, yeah, or you could actually.
Well,
it's changing venue.
For all that is.
Stop.
Okay.
For all.
Okay, so where are you going to do this million years of?
Well, I don't have a lot of inside scoop on that one because I'm not facing that way. So
okay.
It'll be creative.
So it's a whole separate.
Yes. Yes. But the no part, or the woe part actually was the word I used, is around, what did you say?
This planet.
Yes, thank you. So what you're going to see with specificity and particularity,
Okay.
just any moment now, literally revealed, is that it wasn't just this planet.
Okay. Okay. See, I was thinking in terms of this is the planet that's ascending, but really this is a universal ascension.
ALL.
Okay. Okay.
You know, it's kind of like Vegas, you know, what happens on Earth doesn't stay on Earth.
It ripples outward.
Yeah, beyond that.
Well,
But if that clock up in the corner of my thing is right, we really we really didn't get anywhere near the ship sailing of the short video, because that says an hour and 20 minutes.
no, yeah, it's been a bit. That's what I'm saying. This one, well, yes,
That's okay. So, but I'm just saying, I don't want to jump because
I know, right? Okay.
So we'll close that envelope right there.
Very good. Because we could do this all night.
No, that's true, and have actually.
Right. I mean, but no, it's a good question. So someone take note and write it down, either one of us or someone watching the video, and say, hey,
Yes.
And that's
Go back
actually
to that.
a good thing for people who are commenting. If you notice something where we said, well, we'll get back to that, or we'll talk about that later, or whatever, and
we don't.
that hasn't come back around yet.
Remind us.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
That would be quite helpful, actually.
Yes, it would. Yes,
we need all of you too.
Well, and I will say this: while I'm sure that shorter videos have been appreciated by some, I haven't had at least one comment where she said, "No, longer videos." So,
Aww.
yes.
Well, there's a little something for everybody then.
Okay, so I guess we are going to shut this one down. Is that correct, ladies?
Yeah.
BZ, did you get to wrap that one up as far as you were concerned? I mean, as far as we could.
It seems the wrap-ups open new.
Since I'm mostly in the moment, if it's, I can go to the two moments next to each other, but if I get to the third moment, I'm gone. That's why occasionally you see me lean over, is because I'm writing something down on the.
No, I'm glad you're doing it, because I'm just.
Thank you.
I'm just like a sponge, man, soaking it all in.
Me too.
So okay, so thank you, ladies, so much, and
thank you.
Of course, I will have links to the IUV, to BZ's blog, and to Lisa's blog, and of course links to the Conscious Conversation Facebook page and my email. And please do comment, and if you heard anything in this video that you would like for us to talk about more, or you have questions or anything like that, and you don't feel like leaving it in the comment section, that's what my email address is for. So please do contact me in that manner. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.